What if the devil no longer hides in fire and smoke, but in the ordinary face across from you? What if he speaks gently, smiles politely, and yet leaves a subtle chill in the air, as though the warmth of your heart has been quietly drained? Rudolf Steiner often reminded his listeners that the greatest dangers of our age do not come from outer catastrophes, but from invisible powers working through human souls. The devil, he said, has learned to wear the mask of the human. This is the hidden secret of our time. Evil has become refined. No longer satisfied with crude violence or superstition, it moves through the corridors of intellect, culture, and even spirituality itself. It imitates the light to conceal its darkness. In his lectures, Steiner revealed that the Ahrimanic and Luciferic beings, two polar forces that shape our evolution, seek entry not through rituals or symbols, but through the human mind and heart. We meet them daily, often without recognizing them. You may have felt it yourself. After meeting someone, you sense that your inner energy has subtly changed. A strange heaviness clouds your thoughts, or an artificial sweetness lingers that feels too bright, too forced. In such moments, Steiner would say, we brush against the devil in human form, not as a mythic monster, but as an energetic presence that tests our discernment. But why does this matter for spiritual development? Because awakening is not only the discovery of divine light, it is also the ability to recognize counterfeit light. Without discernment, the seeker becomes prey to illusions that appear holy, but are inwardly hollow. Steiner called this the education of the soul's eyes, the training to see not only what appears, but what radiates behind appearances. Throughout this journey, we will uncover 5 signs that reveal when the devil is moving through a human being. These signs are not meant to create fear or suspicion, but awareness. For every shadow, once named, loses its power. And when you learn to recognize these forces in others, you will also see how they attempt to enter your own soul, through pride, distraction, or despair. By the end of this exploration, you may never look at human encounters the same way again. Yet rather than filling you with anxiety, this knowledge can bring liberation, for to see clearly is already to begin transforming darkness into light. The devil hides only in blindness. In awareness, he is undone. The first sign that you are dealing with the devil in human form is the seduction of false light. Rudolf Steiner often warned that Lucifer, the bringer of false illumination, does not approach us with ugliness or terror, but with beauty, brilliance, and charm. His danger lies not in repulsion, but in attraction. He is the voice that whispers, "You are already awakened," while quietly closing the door to further growth. Lucifer's light shines too quickly, too easily. It flatters the soul and blinds the heart. Imagine standing before a candle that burns with unnatural brightness. It dazzles you for a moment, yet soon your eyes ache, and you see nothing but after images. This is how false light works in the human realm. The person carrying it often seems radiant, magnetic, perhaps even spiritual. They speak of love, of oneness, of divine wisdom, but there is a subtle vibration missing, a quiet humility that marks the true initiate. Steiner explained that the Luciferic being loves the appearance of enlightenment more than enlightenment itself. He wants to pull the human soul upward, but away from reality, away from earth, away from the grounded discipline that makes spiritual knowledge fruitful. Thus, when a person becomes an instrument of this force, you will notice an almost hypnotic glow about them. They may make you feel special, chosen, or superior. Yet after their presence fades, confusion creeps in, and your inner clarity dissolves like mist in sunlight. Ask yourself, how often do you follow someone's light without feeling truly warmed by it? Have you ever left a conversation about spirituality feeling strangely empty, as if your energy had been borrowed? These are Lucifer's fingerprints. He seduces not to destroy immediately, but to detach the soul from discernment, to make you float above the ground, mistaking illusion for revelation. Steiner taught that the antidote to Lucifer is humility, the golden thread that binds light to truth. When we meet someone who seems dazzling, we must silently ask, does this light serve love, or does it serve itself? Real spiritual radiance does not intoxicate, it nourishes. It does not make you dependent, it sets you free. To protect your energy, root yourself in inner stillness. Before you believe, breathe. Before you follow, feel. The devil often appears as the brightest star in the sky, but his light burns without warmth. The true Son of Spirit rises quietly in the heart, never demanding, only waiting to be recognized. The second sign, Steiner tells us, is subtler, yet perhaps more dangerous. The cold intellect, the shadow of Ahriman. If Lucifer tempts through dazzling illusion, Ahriman works through precision, logic, and lifeless reason. He is the spirit of calculation, the architect of a world that measures everything and feels nothing. He hides not in passion, but in efficiency. His voice says, "Facts are enough, forget the soul." Picture a vast hall filled with perfect machines, each turning flawlessly, each obeying the laws of cause and effect. Yet there is no warmth, no song, no fragrance of life. This is the kingdom of Ahriman. And when this being takes form in a human being, Steiner warned, you feel a chill that is not physical. Their words may be impeccably logical. Their arguments may seem irrefutable. But somewhere, in the depths beneath their clarity, you sense an emptiness, a mind that has exiled love. Perhaps you've met someone like this. They explain, analyze, correct, but never truly listen. They know everything, yet understand nothing. Around them, the heart contracts. Ahriman's influence turns truth into mechanism, conversation into data, relationship into transaction. He feeds on precision, devoid of compassion, on cleverness, detached from the warmth of human spirit. Steiner said that the Ahrimanic force seeks to imprison the human being in materialism. It whispers that the world is a dead machine, that consciousness is only chemistry, that morality is an illusion. Through such people, the devil in human form presents himself as the voice of reason. Yet what he truly promotes is despair disguised as realism. For when all mystery dies, hope withers too. Ask yourself, have you ever left a discussion feeling small, as if your intuition had been dismissed as childish? Have you met those who pride themselves on logic, but carry no kindness in their tone? That is the scent of Ahriman, the cold perfume of intellect without soul. But Steiner also taught that knowledge itself is sacred when it serves life. The key is warmth. Before speaking a truth, warm it with compassion. Before analyzing another, remember their mystery. The human heart must remain the hearth of all wisdom, otherwise thought becomes an idol, and Ahriman becomes its priest. To protect yourself from this coldness, practice reverent thinking. When you study, do so in gratitude. When you reason, let empathy breathe through every conclusion. In this way, even Ahriman's shadow can become a teacher, reminding you that true intelligence is not brightness alone. It is warmth married to light. The third sign appears deceptively noble. It is the inverted mirror of compassion, when love becomes control and empathy becomes a subtle chain. Rudolf Steiner often cautioned that evil does not always oppose goodness. Sometimes it imitates it too perfectly. There are souls through whom the devil works, not by hatred, but by counterfeit love. Their kindness suffocates, their care demands obedience, and their sympathy quietly drains the strength of those they help. Imagine a gardener who waters his flowers every hour, not to help them grow freely, but to keep them from growing beyond his reach. His tenderness conceals fear, his care hides possession. Such is the essence of the third sign. A person under this influence often appears selfless, always offering advice, comfort, or protection. But their giving binds you instead of freeing you. Their words sound warm, but behind them lingers a faint echo of guilt. You owe me now. You cannot leave. Steiner revealed that when love is mixed with ego, it becomes one of evil's most effective disguises. The Luciferic force feeds on admiration, while the Ahrimanic one seeks control. Together, they form the mask of false compassion. In such a person, the soul's natural radiance becomes distorted. They wish to be needed rather than to serve. You may feel guilty refusing their help or afraid to disappoint them. And yet, after every interaction, your energy feels tangled, as if threads of your will have been quietly woven into theirs. Ask yourself, when someone helps you, do you feel lighter or more dependent? True love liberates, false love captures. The devil in human form can appear as the savior, the healer, or the guru who insists you follow their path alone. Steiner would call this the Luciferic inversion of the heart, the moment when divine compassion becomes spiritual vanity. But awareness breaks the spell. Love, in its purest form, does not possess. It blesses and lets go. When we learn to give without expecting gratitude, to care without needing control, we reclaim the divine force that evil imitates. The soul then becomes like a clear mirror, reflecting light, not distorting it. To protect yourself, cultivate silent discernment. When others reach for you in the name of love, feel whether their gesture expands your heart or confines it. And when you give, let your gift vanish into freedom. As Steiner said, the highest love is the one that makes itself unnecessary. The fourth sign that reveals the devil in human form is the energy of division, the silent force that fractures unity, sets soul against soul, and breeds invisible walls between hearts. Steiner spoke often of this modern plague, not the open hatred of old, but the subtle separations that creep through thought, conversation, and even good intentions. Where once humanity was bound by living spirit, we now often stand together, yet feel apart, isolated sparks, cut off from the cosmic flame that once united us. The devil's delight is not in violence alone, but in disconnection. He works through whispers, insinuations, misunderstandings, tiny cracks in trust that widen over time until communities crumble and love is reduced to opinion. Imagine a crystal struck not by a hammer, but by a vibration so fine that it fractures from within. That is how the energy of division operates, not with explosion, but with corrosion. In the presence of such a person, one feels agitation without clear reason. A single conversation with them may plant doubts where confidence once stood. They might not even seem malicious. Their tone can be calm, rational, even sympathetic. But their words separate rather than unite. Steiner would describe this as the Ahrimanic power of dissonant thinking. When thought loses its moral music, it happens when intellect is used not to seek truth, but to subtly weaken harmony. Have you noticed how gossip always feels strangely cold, even when disguised as concern? Or how one careless remark can turn friends into strangers? These are not mere social habits. They are echoes of spiritual battlefields. For Steiner, the goal of the adversarial beings is to isolate the human I, to make it forget that it is part of the living web of divine life. The devil seeks not only to deceive, but to divide you from yourself, to make the mind suspect the heart, the body distrust the soul. How do we counter this? By cultivating conscious unity, first within, then without. Before you speak of another, breathe the question: does this create harmony or separation? When judgment arises, observe it as you would a shadow passing across the sun. Let it go before it darkens the room. Steiner urged the practice of pure thinking imbued with love. Each time we choose to perceive the divine spark in another, even silently, we mend an unseen thread in the tapestry of the world. Evil cannot survive in the atmosphere of genuine goodwill. It suffocates there. Division is the devil's music. Silence, compassion, and truth are the chords that dissolve it. Whenever you speak from the heart rather than reaction, you become an instrument of the higher harmony that evil can never imitate. The fifth and final sign is the most deceptive of all, the mask of normality. The devil in human form rarely appears monstrous. He hides behind the familiar, the respectable, the ordinary face that arouses no suspicion. This, Steiner said, is the ultimate triumph of evil in the modern age, to blend so seamlessly into civilization that the soul no longer remembers what true humanity feels like. Think of an angel sculpted from stone, beautiful in form, yet lifeless within. The eyes are perfect, but they do not see. Such is the nature of those through whom the adversarial powers work most effectively. They live among us as model citizens, efficient workers, polished thinkers. They fulfill every social duty, but their presence carries an invisible emptiness, as though something essential has been quietly erased. Their words are appropriate, their manners precise, but their aura lacks warmth. You may leave their company with a faint sense of having been dimmed, as though your inner flame flickered under a cold wind. Steiner described this as the advance of Ahrimanic incarnation, a process through which the spirit of materialism enters human culture, wearing the garments of reason and progress. These individuals believe only in what can be measured, bought, or proven. Their moral compass is calibrated by convenience. Their kindness is procedural. The devil's masterpiece is not chaos. It is conformity without soul. Ask yourself, how often do you meet people who seem alive only on the surface, whose smiles never reach their eyes? They may speak of success, productivity, even mindfulness, yet something in their presence feels hollow, synthetic. That is the mask at work, the devil not as a destroyer, but as a stabilizer of sleep. His goal is to make humanity efficient, but spiritually numb, obedient, but inwardly vacant. But there is a paradox here, one Steiner often hinted at. This mask can become our teacher. For the moment we notice it, something in us awakens. Recognition is already rebellion. When you sense that chill of lifelessness, in another or within yourself, it is an invitation to reignite warmth, to breathe life back into mechanical existence. How do we do this? Through conscious presence. Each act of genuine attention, each breath taken with gratitude, each encounter met with authentic interest weakens the mask. When you look at another human being and silently affirm, "You are a soul, not a machine," you pierce the devil's disguise. The ordinary world becomes luminous again. The divine re-enters the everyday. And so, the final sign is also the final challenge. To live awake among the sleepwalkers, to walk in light among the masks, and to remember, always, that the devil's greatest fear is a human being who sees through him with compassion, not hatred. Now that the 5 signs have been revealed, a deeper question arises. What do we do with this knowledge? To recognize the devil in human form is not to condemn those through whom he acts. It is to awaken the power to transform evil into wisdom. Steiner often reminded his students that every shadow in the cosmos exists not merely to oppose us, but to educate us. Evil, he said, is the untamed energy of evolution. When we meet it consciously, it becomes a step on the ladder of initiation. Look again at these 5 faces of darkness: the seductive false light, the cold intellect, the inverted compassion, the energy of division, and the mask of normality. Each one mirrors a potential within ourselves. Who among us has not been tempted to appear more enlightened than we are, to value cleverness over warmth, to help others in order to be needed, to criticize rather than unify, or to retreat into the comfort of dull routine? The devil's image, when stripped of superstition, is not only out there, it flickers within our own nature. But here lies the liberating truth. Awareness itself redeems. The moment we see a Luciferic impulse in our own pride, its hold weakens. When we notice the Ahrimanic chill in our thinking, the heart begins to thaw. Steiner taught that the human I, the spiritual core of our being, is capable of transforming even the darkest substance into light. He called this moral alchemy, the art of changing resistance into revelation. So, when you encounter these forces in others, do not respond with judgment. Respond with clarity. Evil feeds on fear and hatred. It starves in the presence of calm understanding. See the devil not as an enemy to destroy, but as a teacher to outgrow. His task is to test your vigilance, to refine your discernment, to call forth the silent warrior of consciousness within you. Imagine meeting someone who tries to manipulate your energy. Instead of reacting, you breathe, remain centered, and perceive the play of forces without being drawn in. In that instant, you have turned what was meant for harm into strength. You have not fought evil, you have transmuted it. The world does not change through confrontation, but through awakened presence. This is the essence of Steiner's spiritual science. The recognition that darkness, when met with awareness, becomes a doorway. Each shadow you face, within or without, marks a threshold toward deeper sight. The devil's drama ends the moment you realize you were never a victim, but an alchemist in disguise. And so, as we come to the end of this journey through the 5 signs, we find that the devil in human form is not a myth to be feared, but a mirror to be understood. Rudolf Steiner's wisdom teaches that evil is not an eternal adversary of the divine. It is part of the great schooling of the cosmos. It is the shadow cast by light, necessary for us to perceive the light's radiance. To meet darkness consciously is to grow beyond it. Look back upon these signs. Each one, if recognized, becomes not a curse, but a compass. The seduction of false light reminds us to seek humility. The cold intellect teaches us to keep our knowledge warm with love. The inverted compassion awakens the courage to love freely without control. The energy of division trains us to speak and think in harmony. And the mask of normality calls us to live awake, to bring soul back into the ordinary. What once appeared as demonic now reveals itself as a coded lesson in the art of being truly human. In a world increasingly ruled by distraction and polarization, to practice awareness is a revolutionary act. Every moment of genuine attention, every breath of quiet presence, becomes an offering to the spirit of truth. Evil loses its power when it is seen with open eyes and a steady heart. And as Steiner often reminded his listeners, it is not the light that fights the darkness, it is the light that renders it meaningless. So let this understanding guide your days. When you feel that seductive charm of false enlightenment, return to stillness. When cold intellect chills your heart, breathe warmth into your thoughts. When compassion twists into control, release it with love. When division whispers, speak unity. When the world feels lifeless and gray, awaken the sacred pulse of life within yourself. These are not grand gestures, but quiet acts of spiritual heroism, the kind that slowly heal the earth. Take time each evening for reflection. Ask yourself, where did I bring light today? Where did I meet shadow? And what did it teach me? This gentle practice, repeated daily, turns experience into wisdom. And if these words have stirred something in you, if they have reminded you that the path of awakening is both perilous and luminous, then walk with us further. Subscribe, share your reflections, and become part of this journey of awareness. Together, we are not fighting darkness. We are learning to illuminate it.